what is it that drives us forward? That motivating factor that gets you up in the morning, that sense of passion. This all begins with something that I like to call a master plan. Now, what is a master plan and why does this thing that I'm trying to explain even matter? A master plan simply refers to a plan that guides and strategizes long-term goals. And these master plans come in many shapes and forms. So why are these important to you and to anyone else? To me, it all comes down to purpose. The dictionary defines purpose as the reason for which something is done or created, or for which something exists. It probably wouldn't surprise anyone if I said that people often take steps or paths that lead to a life that isn't necessarily the most fulfilling for these people. And that is interesting to me because this question of purpose has actually already been answered during the dawn of mankind in ancient Greece. The Greeks of old actually had a word for this: eudaimonia. It was Aristotle that first uncovered that the root cause of all our actions is happiness. Let's say you would want to buy a phone. Why would you want to buy a phone? For communication, status, other benefits. And why would you want to have these benefits? Maybe you want to create some kind of social belonging. Why do you want to create this social belonging? Happiness. And that actually leads to eudaimonia. Eudaimonia involves activity exhibiting virtue in accordance with reason. This path of eudaimonia also explains why a master plan is so important. The idea of a master plan is to figure out what these virtuous activities are for you that ultimately lead to a happy and purposeful life, and how to act upon these activities. For me, this all started last summer, when I started to work on this document that I like to call my personal mission statement. By this time, I already knew that I wanted to pursue entrepreneurship, but I always had things in the back of my mind that I just had to go back to the world of film somehow. And when it came down to writing my goals, I just couldn't get myself to place that on there. Instead, what I want to focus my efforts on is that which has always excited me. I wish to work on something that builds a brighter tomorrow for society as a whole, something that creates a future that's exciting to everyone. And to pursue this mission, I have set up goals based upon 3 pillars which I would like to elaborate on. The first pillar relates to sustainable energy. I think it's obvious why this is important in our society. I mean, the majority of Australia and the Amazonas have literally been on fire as a direct result from rising temperatures and human activity. Now, the exact weight of human activity on climate change is disputed between experts, but it cannot be denied that there is at least some correlation. And this has primarily to do with the emergence of modern technology. In our recent years, the field of sustainability has become quite a big trend. This has been emphasized when the UN created these so-called Sustainable Development Goals. Many initiatives have been founded to support these goals and to mitigate the negative side effects of modern technology. And though many have yielded noticeable results, these often didn't stick around in the long term if implementation of national law was not a factor. The main reason for this in my eyes comes down to habits. Change is biologically a pretty unnatural thing to occur. Whenever we try to do things differently, we often find ourselves returning to our original patterns. Habits. I think I can describe these best by comparing it to a computer program. A habit in this scenario is like a code, implanted in the human brain in an area known as the basal ganglia. When we stumble upon a cue that triggers this code, a habit is activated and our brains go into an automatic mode where we don't register the majority of impulses from our direct environment. Just to illustrate, this is also why you often can't fully remember a 30-minute bike ride or a car ride in your daily commute. This field of neuroscience has been heavily discussed by Charles Duhigg. He argues that our habits cannot be erased, which is a good thing because this means that we cannot forget the basic motions that keep us alive, like the ability to swim or how to cycle. Luckily, there is a way to tackle negative habits. By effort, we can change how we act upon the cues that initialize habits and therefore alter existing habits. You can view the way personal habits work on a bigger scale as well. Entire societies also have shared common habits that, interestingly enough, function in a similar way. And that brings me back to sustainable energy and the goals of the first pillar. I wish to change the fundamental core of these so-called societal habits in order to make sustainable energy standard practice. And I think the best way to make this possible is the following. I view it as my mission to make sustainable energy so cheap that it simply does not make sense for a consumer not to go green, no matter how aware this consumer is of sustainability. Right now it seems there are 2 possibilities, but these can obviously expand. The first relates to the field of solar energy. There is this golden rule in physics that energy cannot be produced, it can merely be transferred. Yet life on Earth is full of energy, so where does this all come from? The simple answer is the sun. The sun is a nearly infinite ball of energy that radiates its energy in the form of heat and light on the surface of our planet. This is absorbed in our wildlife and transferred into other forms of energy. Now this field can be utilized to fulfill the mission in two ways. The first is to make existing solar panels more efficient and above all cheaper. And the second is to develop new ways to harness solar energy. About the first point, most manufacturers use a significant amount of outsourcing to produce their panels, and this is often seen as a strength that improves reliability. Yet these form extra costs that build upon the final price. In this case, insourcing will be a primary objective to make panels cheaper. The second field relates to development of an entire new form of technology for sustainable energy. A prime example of this would be nuclear fusion, which should not be confused with nuclear fission. To explain briefly, nuclear fusion is a technology that has seen some great advances past decades, but hasn't come to realization just yet. Here, atoms are heated up so incredibly much that they lose connections to their electrons. These then move around and eventually merge with other atoms and fuse. In this process, a great amount of energy is produced, so much that a single cup of water would be able to produce the same amount of energy an entire barrel of oil would do. And all that with relatively no waste. And that concludes the first pillar. Obviously, this is just a rough outline and only time will tell how these ideas will play out. The second pillar is one that I'm currently heavily involved with. It relates to AI development and more specifically AI safety. Artificial intelligence has been a hot topic since the beginning of the century and there is still no sign of this slowing down. It seems that the more advanced these systems have become, the more impact they have upon society. And these will continue to have an ever bigger impact upon our lives. This could be a great thing, but the problem is, it could also not. Just to give a quick overview, the AI we recognize today is referred to as artificial narrow intelligence, or weak AI. Narrow in this scenario speaks to the scope of tasks the AI is designed to perform. An ANI system is primarily designed to do one specific task. Let's take a game of chess for example. An ANI could outperform a person in any given way during a game, but in any other area outside of chess it falls apart. And this is where another term comes into play. Artificial general intelligence or strong AI, which is pretty much human-like intelligence. We are not fully there yet, but according to the experts, AGI is almost certain to happen. This event will be better known as the technological singularity. The final phase in this construct is artificial superintelligence, which is a system that can outperform a human person in any given task, rendering people theoretically obsolete. The implications of future AI systems are vaster than any other type of technology. There is just a catch. These implications could also potentially turn south very quickly. An article I recently read described this quite well. It divided all possible implications into 4 separate scenarios. The possible downside of artificial human-like or superintelligence entail that advanced AI systems could potentially harm our species. The way it does so is not from a rational perspective though. This harm comes from a misalignment of goals between man and machine, which is when an AI is programmed to maximize a certain function but develops a method that is ultimately destructive to achieve this goal. Let's take an example to explain this. Imagine a machine that is tasked to bring you a cup of tea in the morning. It registers a kettle on the kitchen and moves toward it to make tea. This is the function that the AI tries to maximize, and it will ensure that every action results in a faster and more efficient delivery of tea. Now imagine that you are a parent and your 2-year-old kid happens to be crawling in the kitchen. For the machine, moving around the kid will result in a slower and therefore less efficient delivery of the tea. So the AI will likely not bother to avoid the kid, which ultimately results in the machine hurting or even possibly fatally wounding the kid, just to win a few seconds of earlier tea delivery. Obviously, such a situation is easily avoidable with our current AI systems, but the more intelligent systems become, the harder it is to restrict these systems in certain ways, simply because it will learn to bypass restrictions in order to deliver its tasks in the most efficient manner. The thing is, when you deal with artificial superintelligence, intelligence much more advanced than our own, misalignment could prove so severe that it might actually become an existential threat. On the bright side, however, if we are able to make sure goals are properly aligned, these systems could pave the way for the construction of an actual utopia and propel society in ways that we can't even imagine. The scary part to me is that top experts within the field all seem to disagree on what the future of AI will look like. Nobody really knows how this technology will evolve and what its societal impacts will be. And when one possible outcome is actual extinction, that uncertainty becomes kind of concerning, even if the probability of that happening is low. Back in 2015, the top figures within AI development actually signed an open letter addressing all the major issues regarding AI safety and how this should develop. AI safety, in my opinion, is one of the biggest and hardest tasks we will face within the field of AI, and we will only have one chance to do it right. This brings me to my goals within this field. I believe that AI is in every way the future and could provide an incredible range of exciting tools that will make life easier, exciting, and more enjoyable. I wish to become part of the AI revolution by building up a firm that allows for products and services that make this possible. But most importantly, I wish to build up this firm to become at the front of AI development so that we can progress technology with AI safety in mind, for the reasons that I just mentioned. There's many things I would like to do with the singularity. The most important goal here is to apply this newfound artificial superintelligence to the human health system, and with tools such as nanotechnology support the body's regenerative capabilities. Things such as artificially creating telomeres on chromosomes, which in combination with a few other factors could slow the human aging process and even hypothetically lead to human immortality. But this is such a huge topic that I won't be able to discuss this properly and in detail in this video, so this will probably be a topic for the future. The third and final pillar refers to a scientific breakthrough that hasn't really happened yet, but if and when it does, it is likely to become a huge event that will change our species forever. It's the pillar that's the least articulated, so I will keep it brief. This pillar refers to interplanetary growth. Now, this all has to do with the emergence of SpaceX, which under the most impossible circumstances have revolutionized the space industry in less than 20 years. SpaceX has been created for the sole purpose of permanently settling mankind on Mars, and each and every decision so far has been to advance that goal. Just last year they announced the prototype of the rocket that's supposed to bring us there, Starship. Though the first tests haven't fully gone perfect, the way that it is developed to me is extremely interesting, and I have faith that this thing might actually be able to do the trick. I don't want to get too much into rocket science for the sake of this video, so I will list my reasons here and you can ask me personally for elaboration. However, this pillar isn't necessarily related to the Mars mission. As I mentioned, SpaceX has revolutionized the industry to the point that space exploration is actually getting affordable. This could pave the way for creating a permanent moon base, a settlement on Mars, and possibly even beyond that. There are great benefits to be gained for our entire species, having access to an abundance of new resources, materials, and science capabilities. Like I just said, my goals within this field aren't per se related to spaceflight. I wish to help find solutions that make interplanetary expansion possible. This could mean a whole array of things. Combine it for example with Pillar 1. You're gonna need a solution for energy on these newfound environments that might not have the resources to produce energy conventionally. There's a million ways that this could play out, and only time will tell how this will develop. I want to give some final thoughts before I end this video. Now, these pillars are not small steps and might take a journey of a lifetime to complete but a fraction. There's two reasons why I made this video. I kinda needed a kick in the butt to finish all the research and work on this topic, and a public video would help. But the second reason is much more important. The goals of these pillars don't just concern me, they concern society. I made this video to be able to get some criticism on all the claims, some ideas, or just to spark some conversation so that we can all learn from each other. It's going to be a collective effort to create a future that's beneficial to us all. And finally, because this video has been going on for so long, I just wanted to say thank you. It means a lot to me that you're willing to listen to all these ideas and thoughts I have on these topics that are important to me. So once more, thank you. And see you in the next one.